Ethereum is basically a platform that provides a sort of completely generalized architecture for decentralized consensus. Because I wanted Ethereum to make things very trivial. I wanted to make it, I wanted people to do Namecoin in 2 lines of code, create your own currency in 10 lines.
I'm here with Vitalik Buterin. Could you tell me a little bit about sidechains?
Sure. So the idea behind sidechains is something that's really been around for almost half a year now. So about really even before that, people came up with this concept called a one-way peg, where the idea is that you can come up with a new currency, and the way that you would be able to get new units of that new currency is that you would destroy bitcoins on the Bitcoin blockchain. So you would send them to some address that's provably unspendable, like that one Bitcoin Ether address. Don't send or whatever, and then you would create a proof that you made that transaction, and you would submit that proof into the second blockchain, and that proof would entitle you to get 1 unit of Bitcoin in the other blockchain. So what that basically gives you is it gives you a distribution model that sort of allows you to convert your old Bitcoins in one system into new Bitcoins in another system. But the problem is that there's no two-way convertibility. So although it does put a price ceiling on the value of the new currency, at least for as long as the peg remains, it doesn't put a price floor. So the idea of a two-way peg is interesting. So, the way a two-way peg works is, in order to get a coin in chain B, what you do is you take a coin in chain A and you send it into a script. We'll call that script X for now. And then you take a proof of that you made that transaction, submit it into chain B, and that entitles you to just magically get a coin out of nowhere in chain B. So then, what is script X? So script X is a script that says the following: if you can submit into the script a proof that you destroyed a coin in chain B, then you're allowed to unlock the coin behind the script. So the idea is it's this sort of mechanism where basically the way that you get a coin in chain B is by taking a coin in chain A and sort of putting it into this kind of bank that then unlocks the coin to some other person who comes along with some other coin in chain B. So it allows for two-way convertibility. You can convert from chain A to chain B by putting a coin into the script, and then you convert from chain B to chain A by destroying a coin in chain B, and then finding one of these scripts and submitting your transaction in chain B into the script, and you get a coin in chain A back. So the general point of this is that it allows you to create currencies or cryptographic systems that exist outside of Bitcoin from a protocol standpoint, but are at the same time tied to Bitcoin, the currency unit. So in general, if you look at cryptocurrency systems as a whole, you can fit them into basically 4 quadrants. So one quadrant is it's built on top of Bitcoin, the blockchain, and Bitcoin, the currency. That's just by definition Bitcoin itself. The second quadrant is it's built on top of Bitcoin, the blockchain, but not Bitcoin, the currency. So that's where meta protocols like Mastercoin, Colored Coins, and Counterparty come in. Then another quadrant is not built on top of the blockchain, not built on top of the currency. So that's where the Ethereum has been so far. Mm-hmm. And now we have this fourth quadrant, which is built on top of Bitcoin, the currency, without being built on top of Bitcoin, the blockchain.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you think this means for the future of altcoins? Is it going to render them obsolete?
It really depends on what kind of altcoins. Like, I think if you're going to create some kind of sort of trivial single feature innovation on top of Bitcoin, I think those kinds of altcoins have really been pretty much obsolete already. Like, if you look at all of these sort of tiny alts that make one tiny feature improvement, really the only one that's stuck around is Litecoin. All the others are like $5 million, $3 million market cap. Then if you look at altcoins that have where it's really all about specifically the currency being different. So if you look at something like Prime Coin, where the point is to pay people in currency for finding these chains of prime numbers, or Dogecoin, where the point is that you're not supposed to focus on the monetary value. Yeah, so in those cases, it actually does make sense to have a different monetary unit. So then if you look at things that aren't really coins so much as abstract crypto systems, something like Ethereum. So the nice thing about Ethereum is that, as I was mentioning in my presentation yesterday, Ethereum is not a coin. We're a generalized platform for building anything. And the point is that you're supposed to do whatever experimentation you want inside of this mechanism that's called contracts. And so, Ether is the main mechanism for paying transaction fees on top of Ethereum. But also the nice thing about Ethereum is that you can also use other currencies. Like you can use that currency that uses financial derivatives to perfectly track the price of a US dollar. You can use backed currencies, and you can use all sorts of commodity basket currencies, indices, or now you can also have a contract which acts as a Bitcoin sidechain.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's really exciting. And do you see any potential security risks with sidechains in that they're sort of unbearable until they go back onto the blockchain?
Yeah, so there are a few issues that people have pointed out. So one of the issues is that because this is a side chain, is not going to be able to come up with its own currency units because all of the currency units inside the system have to be backed by Bitcoins unless you want to create a side chain which is a fractional reserve, but that's obviously going to be really unstable. So the problem is that there's no way to reward miners for mining it. So there's really two big solutions for that. So one solution is proof of stake. So that's actually a solution I haven't seen anyone else talking about in the recent discussion, but it's there. And then the other solution is this concept of merge mining with Bitcoin. So the way that merge mining works is basically you have Bitcoin miners simultaneously in their blocks include hashes of the Bitcoin block and also hashes of the sidechain block. So for basically very little extra cost, the miners are also supporting the sidechain. So yeah, the security issue is that because these sidechains are trivial to mine for Bitcoin miners, they're also trivial to attack for Bitcoin miners. So if you have a sidechain, then unless you can get more than 50% of Bitcoin's network hash power backing you, say if you got only 5% of the network hash power backing you, then some other pool with 15% hash power can literally just flip on a switch and 51% attack your chain at no cost to themselves. Right. No cost. Like not even the cost of mining a few invalid blocks. Mm-hmm. So that's basically one of the issues that I think people are concerned about. And also just from a philosophical standpoint, I think the reason why people like cryptocurrencies is because they allow innovation without permission. Mm-hmm. You don't have to ask like Apple or some existing financial system or anyone else if you want to set up a cryptocurrency. You just do it, and it's pretty much the people that are the ones that are going to either accept it or not. So here, if you do a sidechain, the problem is that you're going back to the old paradigm on some extent. You're basically saying you have to convince a small set of Bitcoin mining pools to agree to mine on your chain, and if you don't get over 50%, then you're insecure.
Right.
Yeah.
So are you overall positive about this development?
I think it's a very interesting idea. Like as I was saying, it fills in a quadrant that hasn't existed before. And generally, the reason why business people love talking about quadrants is, and all sorts of other diagrams of that sort, is that when you see some new technology that fills in a new quadrant, chances are there's some kind of unused niche that would really benefit from it. So yeah, I'm sure they'll find some uses.
So what exactly is Ethereum?
Okay, so Ethereum is basically a platform that provides a sort of completely generalized architecture for decentralized consensus that allows you to create basically any kind of decentralized application. So we're talking about things like making your own currencies, putting on other currencies, decentralized organizations, voting protocols, also things like a name registration, Namecoin, any kind of financial contract, financial marketplaces. So just about anything that's based on this paradigm of some kind of internal state and some concept of transactions, whether that's orders in an order book, transactions on a balance sheet, registrations in a DNS system, anything that can benefits from that sort of functionality, Ethereum contracts can cover.
When people refer to Ethereum as an altcoin, do you find that this is an inaccurate portrayal?
Yeah, so The word altcoin is used in several different, somewhat exclusive or semi-exclusive contexts. So sometimes people will use the word altcoin to refer to something which is based on a modification on the Bitcoin source code specifically. So Ethereum is not; it's a complete rewrite from scratch. Like literally, I think even some of the hashing libraries we use are different. So another way of thinking about altcoins is just as alternative cryptocurrencies that are not Bitcoin. So in that sense, Ethereum contains altcoins. It contains Ether, which I suppose you could call an altcoin. It'll contain thousands of altcoins and contracts, but Ethereum itself is this generalized platform. So like in Bitcoin, for just as another sort of analogy, the Bitcoin wallet and the Bitcoin client are synonyms. In Ethereum, the Ethereum client is sort of a layer on the bottom, and the Ethereum wallet is an application that sits on top. So the coins are on top, we're the platform.
And you've also developed your own scripting language for this called Serpent, based on Python. So why did you decide to do this?
Yep. So the idea was that there's so in the Ethereum tracked implementation, and you also find this in the more limited language that's Bitcoin script. It's this stack-based programming language. It's very easy, step by step, for computers to verify, but it's really annoying to write in. It's this sort of set of stack and memory operations that are sort of somewhat opaque. It's like, okay, what does push 10, push 132 S-load mean? So what I realized from the start is that what I wanted Ethereum to do is I wanted Ethereum to make things very trivial. I wanted people to do Namecoin in 2 lines of code, create your own currency in 10 lines. So that's something that we've been heavily pushing, but in order for that to be a reality, it also requires there to be easy-to-use tools for actually building some of these contracts. So Serpent, it was originally named the CLL, the C-like language. So it's a sort of programming language that's very, very simple, but then there's a compiler to compile it down to this machine code. So that's something we've been developing over several months. Just a few days ago, I renamed that Serpent because it's basically Python, and I've really just sort of fleshed the whole thing out. It's got variables, it's got arrays, it's got certain simple functions. So it's a language that I really want to see sort of target that really nice convenience where you almost don't really need to think about the underlying programming bits. You sort of just write the code.
Right. Where do you see Ethereum in 10 years' time?
I suppose hopefully the same place something like TCP/IP is today. Yeah.
So you see it as really taking over and becoming an integral part of programming and of the technology sphere.
Yeah, it'll. I mean, if it succeeds, then I hope that it will become an integral part of at least the part of the technological sphere that could benefit from it.
Right. Do you see it taking over from Bitcoin?
So there's several different applications for Bitcoin. I find like Bitcoin does do certain things really well. It's a very, very good store of value. It's got that finite supply. It's a good way of sending transactions, but at the same time, Ether and Ethereum is better for things like smart contracts, things like building your own things on top of it. So, I think we could easily see Bitcoin remaining as this sort of scarce digital gold, and then all the other sort of special purpose assets doing their own different thing.
So, whereas Bitcoin is the gold, perhaps Ethereum is platinum or diamonds.
Sometimes we like to use cryptographic oil sometimes.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me.
Yeah, thank you.
If you like my channel, please hit the like button and be sure to subscribe. I also have a Patreon account and wanted to give a special shout out to all the awesome people there. And a huge thank you to the sponsors of the show for making these videos possible. Thanks so much for watching.
She used to just party, go all the way.